See if there's a countdown. It says we're live. It's a reasoning conspiracy. Reconspiracy. Recon blog on WordPress. The Reasoning Conspiracy blog on WordPress had featured an article on the annual Academy Awards Clan Rally that we're going to be discussing today on today's live show, which is a part of a pilot, I guess, episode, See How It Is When We Go Live. And right now we're on a clip, actually, so we're going to start off. This was going to be this is the intro for the show right here.
I encourage you to watch the history of cinema.
Best actor for The Revenant.
Everyone at Fox and New Regency, especially Arnon Milchan, you stuck with us to the bitter end. And to my parents, a terrific year in film. Brad West and Jim Giannopoulos. But Arnon Milchan, there's no one in this industry that would stick with a film like this to its bitter end. You are the champion of this film. My entire team, Jen and Sean.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
I want to thank my entire team back home. Of course, all the producers at Fox and New Regency, in particular Arnon Milchan. You stood by this film to the bitter end. I cannot thank you enough. And of course, Alejandro Inarritu. This film would not have been possible without your vision.
So this is our intro on this broadcast here, and that's just a clip here, and you'll notice in all those award speech acceptances, Leonardo DiCaprio thanking his producer Arnon Milchan, and I noticed that because Leonardo DiCaprio is predicted to win this year in the Academy Awards. Let me just exit the screen mode, and here we go. Now we're starting this episode here on the Academy Awards Oscars So White controversy. In 2016, it's Oscars So Gold. And what we've noticed here is that Hollywood is, well, it's basically there's a new controversy every year, but it's always interesting to consider the movies because it's a widely watched form of the propaganda, and you can see really the conspiracy within the conspiracy and sort of analyze, you know, any of the nominees you'll find related to the conspiracies, at least the ones that I've seen. And this year, surprisingly, I've seen a lot. A few past years, I haven't even seen the winners of last year. It was Birdman, or the year before was it 12 Years a Slave? I haven't seen them yet, but I'll probably check them out eventually. But this year I saw a lot of the nominees, so most likely it's going to be The Revenant is going to win, and Leonardo DiCaprio will win the Best Actor as well. So he'll be doing an acceptance speech, and he'll most likely thank Arnon Milchan, the producer, because he has thanked him in almost every award speech he's given, and you know, he'll always thank the director and a few other people as well. But this one producer stands out because I had recently heard of him during a studies in propaganda lecture, and Sydney White does these lectures in Toronto, and she even mentioned him in one of these studies in propaganda. I can show you right here is a clip here. Listen to this.
This is from the spotlight at the time and afterwards. This is very interesting and also ironic. Since you have pointed out, this is in the middle of an interview, since you have pointed out that when Oliver Stone made the movie about Garrison, remember, he was a lawyer, Garrison, he went after Clay Shaw, okay? Garrison, he steered clear of any of the details that you've assembled. Now he's talking to Piper, assembled relating to the Israeli connection. This is now, Piper is coming back. That is another story in itself, inasmuch as the executive producer of Stone's film, the person who put up the money that made the film possible, was Arnon Milchan. Please look this guy up. He's very well known as an arms dealer. He's also a Hollywood producer. He thinks he's another James Bond, though it doesn't look nearly as good, I can tell you. It was Arnon Milchan, who was described in the Nation magazine by liberal writer Alexander Cockburn as being Israel's largest arms dealer. That's who produced the Oliver Stone film. I saw it. It was okay. A lot of the information that you know wasn't there, but that's what that's about.
JFK, talking about the movie there, JFK. And if you know the Sidney White lectures, then you know that they are free conspiracy culture type lecture in Toronto, and it's been going on for a long time, many years, and it's apparently going to be returning this spring as well. There's also a Studies in Propaganda YouTube channel, and you can check that out on if you just search for it on YouTube. It looks like this. This channel is a Studies Propaganda, and there's more from Sidney White. But she, in that short brief clip there, she talked about Arnon Milchan, who Leonardo DiCaprio had thanked for producing The Revenant, and he's like one of these big studio executive or Hollywood executives. And I actually decided I had to do some research on who this guy was because you know, Sidney White had recommended it, talking about the movie JFK. It was in one of her lectures in the fall, and the Israel connection is interesting as well because, well, basically, anytime you talk about these racial conflicts, and then you talk about Hollywood, and it's always interesting in Israel because there's the Jewish religion and the Jewish race and the country of Israel, and they're all different, you know, can be referred to as different things. So really, I wouldn't want to try to be into this big racial conflict that the Academy is currently into. And that's really why I had, in Reasoning Conspiracy, the blog on WordPress, I decided to post that as an article. And I can bring that up here because you go to reasoningconspiracy.wordpress.com, you'll see Academy Awards Klan Rally, this article here. And the Academy is elite group. It's Oscars so white here. It's that time of year again, time for the annual Klan rally known as the Academy Awards, and it's the trending controversy is Oscars so white is the makeup of the nominees for the Academy Awards, and I did this thing where I tried to connect the dots here. I'll continue reading here, and we're just going to bring up the article, and as that's loading, I just would connect these dots here. And it starts off with the first awards of the Academy Awards were basically blatantly racist, sort of a stereotype role is the jazz singer, and it's an Al Jolson, basically about a Jewish guy that performs in blackface, and it's considered, a pioneering movie, so it won the first ever special award. It was the Jazz Singer in 1927 because it was a pioneering of the talkie motion pictures. This was when the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences started in the silent film era, and the pioneering motion picture talkie starring Al Jolson won. But, it's notorious because he performs it in blackface. Then the next one, we have the first ever individual filmmaker to be presented a statue for Distinguished Creative Achievement, D.W. Griffith, 1935. And this is a famous director. You study him if you go to film school, D.W. Griffith and Birth of a Nation is one of the classic films that he did. He also did The Intolerance as well. But Birth of a Nation does feature the origins of the Ku Klux Klan that rose, sort of presents them as, the heroic knights after the Civil War, resurrecting the ghosts of the dead Confederate soldiers. And, that's what the Klan, what they're doing with these burning crosses. And it's basically a blatant, some white pride thing. And I don't even know if D.W. Griffith was totally racist himself when you see Intolerance later, but the Birth of a Nation is it's basically is a notorious picture. And this is what the Academy is celebrating. These are, if you're given an honorary statue, this is the company you're keeping, basically. Another one was Walt Disney had won the first for animating the Steamboat Mickey, and that was all around that time as well. And that's a whole other conspiracy. So what you can read through all this, because I get into the major players here: Jada Pinkett Smith, Spike Lee, and Michael Moore. And the Spike Lee part is the interesting part, because I also, in one of these dots, I connect to a book that I had read, This Terrible Business Has Been Good to Me. It's a Norman Jewison book. I had got it from the library, so I don't have it to read you the direct quote from it, but he does talk about the movies he never got to make. And apparently Spike Lee, who's one of the, well-known, he's well-known for racial filmmaking. I guess he's black filmmaker, African-American filmmaker, but nobody really knows if he's in the Boule or the Boule Illuminati. But he does have some control of what's going on in Hollywood, and this is where you see that Norman Jewison, who had made a lot of these, he's a white filmmaker. Everyone, he talks a lot about his connections with Freemasonry and stuff in the book. And he grew up in Toronto, the Toronto area, near the beach. So it's interesting that he's renowned as a Canadian filmmaker, but he had done a lot of Hollywood movies. That's why he's well known. And he talked about that he was going to make some movies, including a movie that he had been developing about Nat Turner, the Slave Rebellion. And this would be presenting, because there's a lot of movies and TV series about slavery, but there's not really any that, show really that slaves just wouldn't go along with it and actually rebel against it, which, you'd hope that the conditions are so bad as, slavery was, that there would be, some kind of movement for freedom. And that could be what the Nat Turner and the importance of the Nat Turner book and our story, and as well as the connections with the importance of the Bible too, because Nat Turner was well known in the well versed maybe in the Bible compared to other people, and that he's an educated guy. So they finally made it. Okay, basically Spike Lee had the movie shelved, and then they made the movie on the Nat Turner, and he had the movie. Well, and actually, they never made a movie on Nat Turner. They actually just made the movie in 2016, but Spike Lee didn't make it. It's another filmmaker named Nat Parker. So is Spike Lee, friends with Nat Parker, or does he, does he have a lot of hope and respect for the birth of a nation? Actually, coincidentally, Nat Parker named the movie Birth of a Nation. That's just that's one of these coincidence theories that we get into in Reason and Conspiracy. And I don't want it to sound like I'm rambling on, because we do have another Oscar So White clip that I could always play and then get back into this. And it'll give you some more information on, really what's happened here. And let me just cue it up, and then we'll come back here after you hear a bit of this, because it is quite the trending controversy. So what I'm going to do is I'll play this clip, and what you're going to see here, to just to give you a heads up, is some of the primetime players like Spike Lee, Jada Pinkett Smith, Michael Moore, and they'll all be talking about their thoughts on it. And then I also mixed in different people that have sounded off once they voiced their opinions, and just because it is a trending controversy, we'll get some different people speaking on it. And just because I don't want it to just be my voice here, but I've done a bit of research. I just wanted to make this live show really just to test it out and to try to sort of explain why this has been made and make my predictions for tomorrow, because the actual Oscars 2016 is happening tomorrow. We're, almost 24 hours away, a bit more, less than 48 hours away. So let's just see what the Oscars so white controversy is really, is really trending as. Let's just take a look here.
The Academy has the right to acknowledge whomever they choose, to invite whomever they choose. And now I think that it's our responsibility now to make the change. Maybe it is time that we pull back our resources and we put them back into our communities, into our programs, and we make programs for ourselves that acknowledge us in ways that we see fit.
And I find it ironic that somebody who has made their living and made millions and millions of dollars from the very people that you talk about boycotting, just because you didn't get a nomination, just because you didn't win, that is not the way life works, baby.
So you're not going to the Oscars. I'm going to the Nick game. Fuck the Grammys. Fuck the Oscars. Fuck all that old slavery bullshit ass awards show. Fuck them.
Right, yeah. But it's true what Jade is saying, but we do need to represent ourselves by pushing open doors that are really almost open.
Yes.
We have to be friendly to those who people hire their friends. We can't be self-segregated either.
Right.
There's a part, the point at which Black Hollywood is so separate.
What I find astounding is that we've had a president who is Black in office for the past 8 years, who gets most of his funding from the liberal elite in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Birth of a Nation just sold at Sundance for $17.5. That is the biggest news.
Congratulations.
An amazing film about Nat Turner broke the Sundance record.
Here's the thing. I have never used the word boycott. What I said was my wife, my beautiful wife, Tanya, we're not coming. That's it. And I gave the reason. So I've never used the word boycott. I never said to anybody, it's like, do you? We're not coming. Not going.
Oh, are you going?
I never used to go anyway. So.
You're not boycotting.
You can't boycott something that you never went to anyway. That's kind of weird.
You're invited to join the membership if you're nominated or you win. But if you still have to be accepted. Like it's like you put up your application.
I thought you were automatically in. If you got that trophy, I thought you were automatically in.
And by the way, I was a member before I was not.
Also, you were a member before.
The only requirements when I applied was that you have 2 Academy members of the Academy sponsor you.
I won't go into the conspiracy theory of the way. The thing about the Academy is it's a political campaign. Has nothing to do with artistic endeavor at all.
Anybody who was in a movie, you can nominate them.
Okay.
You, as an actor, I can nominate anybody who was in a movie. The same with the best movies. I can nominate any movie I want that's on the list. And every movie is on the list.
When I look at it, the nominations reflect the Academy. The Academy reflects the industry, reflects Hollywood. And then the industry reflects America, reflects a series of challenges that we are having in our country at the moment.
But with all of that being said, it would certainly be nice if everybody could be represented properly. And hopefully that's the case, but perhaps it's not the case. It's a difficult situation.
McDonald's, if you're Chris Rock, and again, for the second consecutive year, there are no African Americans who got nominated, and now there's pressure from the Black community for him to step out, what would you recommend he do?
Well, I think he'll probably say something, and joke about it a little bit and do it the way he does. He's a great guy.
I think there's no jokes, there's no approach that you can have with going about hosting the Oscars with the blatant racism and discrimination that's happening in that organization that can make anything better.
Chris Rock is the host of the Academy Awards. And so to boycott him seems just as bad as what everybody's saying.
No. Chris Rock should host the Oscars. What does Chris Rock have to do with this? It's not, you take Chris off, ain't no blacks. Nowhere.
Every year is pretty much a whiteout. 1 year, I think with us, we're going to keep on doing what we're doing. We're going to make more movies. This invigorates Black people.
you let Chris Rock out there live on the Oscars, and you don't think that Chris Rock is going to make several pointed comments about it, oh, you better believe he is. Chris Rock will be the best thing for the movement for the Oscars than even the people not showing up. Trust me, Chris Rock is too smart and courageous of a guy, and I think he should host the Oscars.
Over the years, I've seen, numerous black actors and African-American actors receive Academy Awards, and I think that's great. This doesn't happen to be one of those years, but it's a difficult situation.
I've been nominated twice for Academy Awards, and I've never lost to a white person. The first time I lost to Denzel. The second time I lost to Forrest Whitaker.
It's a waste of energy to worry and complain about movies that were successful that didn't even get acknowledged by this like elite. But but that establishment, we're empowering it by complaining about it. When the actors that are boycotting are powerful, they could be elite too. They have every right to be the new establishment.
This whole Academy thing is a misdirection play. We're chasing the guy down the field and he doesn't have the ball. The other guy's high-stepping in the end zone. So it goes further than Academy Awards. Let's go back to the gatekeepers.
See, you got the black woman who happens to be the president, but yet she has no influence to change anything that's going on with the voting academy. They just allow for 20 or 30 different directors, actors, writers that are all African-American to join the voting academy on behalf of the lack of diversity and all of the blatant racism and discrimination and all of this hype. But the people that are now a part of the academy, off the record, have said to me and others, we came here to change things. We came here to have a voice. And now that we're here, we realize we still don't have a voice. Because now the academy is able to say, why y'all talking mess about us? You got 30 black directors, actors, and influential people all here as voting academy members.
No. Yes, I make movies for a living. Let me tell you what the problem is. It's not that the people nominating are too white. They're not looking at a movie and saying, oh, that's very white. I'm not going to nominate that black movie. They're not sitting there like that. What's the problem is the people who can be helping to make movies that have blacks and Latinos and women and all that money doesn't come to you because the idea is that there's no place for black movies. If there are more than two black people in a movie, I'm telling you. But look, listen to me. I understand that.
And in fact, when I received my honorary Oscar at the governor's ball in November, she began that night saying, this is your plan. So it's not gonna, we can't say hocus pocus, presto changeo, and the membership's gonna change overnight.
The numbers are kind of amazing. 94% white, 77% male.
I stand with Spike and Jada. This is wrong. Not just in terms of the Oscars, but really it's the industry. I mean, I just served a term recently on the Board of Governors a couple years ago at the Oscars and representing the documentary branch. And I know that amongst the Board of Governors and amongst the people that run the Academy, they are absolutely disgusted with this all-white nature. It keeps happening every year. I think they're going to fix it. I think I and others who symbolically stand with Spike and Jada will help this along.
I would also ask the people who are boycotting the Academy Awards to really step out with the Black Lives Matter movement. I mean, to go beyond their little world and step into where real lives are being threatened and lost.
Some of us got mortgages to pay, we got bills to pay, we got bigger shit to worry about than the Oscars.
There was a white man who started the hashtag Oscars So White. Wasn't a black man. He was a white man.
You don't knock on the doors of Hollywood asking for stuff. You kick them down and you demand. And so
on an occultic level, right, what's the significance of the red carpet? So just real quick, we know and understand that the Oscar award that the Academy gives out is stolen from ancient Egypt, ancient Kemet, the Egyptian god of time. This is where they got that particular idea of the Oscar from.
And that was Professor Griff there just at the end. That was some of the great voices, celebrities in Hollywood standing off on the topic, Oscars so white. Are they going to boycott? What are their thoughts on the Academy, which operates as a secret society? If you had been able to decode some of that was featured there. Jada Pinkett Smith started it off. Spike Lee was featured in there. Michael Moore, Aunt Viv, who's Janet Hubert, I think, who's from the old classic Will Smith show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the original mother, the original aunt, Aunt Viv, who had something to say about Jada Pinkett Smith, the wife of Will Smith, sounding off on boycotting the Oscars, just possibly in light of her husband not being nominated this year, even though he had been nominated for a Golden Globe Award, which is run by the Hollywood Foreign Press and other secretive society, I believe. Because really, who are these people? These celebrities are public about their opinions. Snoop Dogg, sounding off in support of Jada Pinkett Smith. Marlon Wayans, mentioning, that some of the truth about Hollywood is that the doors don't really get knocked. You can't knock on a door and expect it to open. That's basically in living color. And what's the color? Gold. Gold is the color of the Oscar statue, which Professor Griff mentioned in that last clip there about the occultic origins, that even the Academy stole that from ancient Egypt. And Tyrese sounded off in there. Ice Cube had a good point that he never even gets invited anyway, so how could he boycott something he's never been to in the first place? Stacey Dash is the controversial Clueless actress, known for Clueless, and I guess she had been on BET, but she even questioned the BET awards, the significance of that in light of race, because the BET is celebrating black entertainment, black culture, whereas the Academy Awards doesn't blatantly say that they're celebrating white culture or whatever lily white the awards is. So she mentioned that, and oh wait, I should take this screen sharing off here, because I just been basically talking to a black screen here. So we're working on the Reasoning Conspiracy live show, and going through who you had heard in there. Russell Simmons did mention that there is a trouble in Hollywood, is that these people that become successful, the elite players in the game in Hollywood, just hire their friends. So and Hollywood itself operates as an elite secret society, regardless of what the race is, or if someone from racialized community became successful and they just hired their friends, then so that's something to look out for, because Whoopi Goldberg also made some good points in there. And Cuba Gooding Jr., that clip is in there, and there's the quote that's in the article that's on the Reasoning Conspiracy blog. And that basically Cuba Gooding Jr. talked about how he got into the Academy, and it was requiring that you had the Academy members sponsor you. And he was sponsored through that and made it into the Academy. But he did do an aside there that before he was even nominated, and he had won the Academy Award in Jerry Maguire for supporting actor, but he had been a member even before. So it's not just you get nominated, you get in, because you still need to be approved and apply. Or he talks about the process, and that if you watch that interview, you'll see that he asked Morgan Freeman to be one of his sponsors. You need two Academy Award members to sponsor you, and Morgan Freeman, when he asked him, was not a member. So he thinks maybe he joined later, because Morgan Freeman eventually won, but at that point he didn't. And even Will Smith did mention in that clip that he was nominated twice and lost to actors of color. So really, what is this whitewashing that we're seeing in the Oscars? And that's what we get into in this the article here that's on here with Michael Moore, and this is where it gets. Oh, right at the end of the article, you'll see I link to the Professor Griff breakdown of the whole issue, and this is a good one that I'd recommend you listening to, because it's talking about this whole issue at greater in depth. And Professor Griff is one of the guys that is always good to hear his opinion of, especially on matters like this, which is a touchy subject in Hollywood, because you're talking about Oscars so white, and that, you know, people need a representation at the studio level for there to really be change. And then you see in the studio level that many of them are of the, I guess, if you could say the Jewish race, then it's a different race than, you know, the Gentiles, I guess. And if they're both appear with white skin, then Oscar's so white. But there's, you know, basically the one thing that stands out on, I guess, race theory, because I think there's a lot of theories and there's a lot of unexplained things about who the first ancestors were, or if everyone has a common ancestor. There is word that everyone, you know, might have common ancestors that came from around Africa, you know, billions of years ago, or even 6,000 years ago in the Garden of Eden. And if that's the case, then would the races not have been made over time? And this, you know, this could be a theory, and it's a scary one when you consider there's a lot of people that have racial pride. But what about inbreeding? Because if the races were created through inbreeding, then, you know, can you really be proud of that? And what we're seeing here, and what this year is really all about, and this controversy is really all about, is that hopefully there would be some recognition of the human race. And it's what Kevin Clark mentions, and he's one of the great Toronto politicians. You'll always see him running, and otherwise, you know, he's got his ear to the street, and he says a lot of times, he talks about the importance of the human, recognizing the human race. And anyways, I'm not going to, you know, start some kind of "We Are the World" chant, or you know, try to pretend that you know, a lot of this isn't a controlled media psyop here, because they actually want, you know, racial conflict and racial thing going on. That's why what we need to think about is really the gold of the Oscars, and why the elite have always favored gold. And, you know, if you win a golden trophy, it ups your game, puts you into the elite of Hollywood, an elite bracket, an elite level, gets your movie seen more, because people like to watch the winners, and you're basically appearing in an occult ceremony. And this is what we've learned in doing this research. And I don't know if it's all totally research, because some of it is an entertainment level, but I had always wanted to be in the movie business, in the movie industry. And I had even rented in the old VHS days, when I used to have my VCR, I'd rent VHS movies. And the old video store I went to had a whole section where they have each, they had a list of all the winners each year, and then they had all the tapes they'd have there, whichever ones were in. And there was a time when I, you know, tried to watch almost all of them. I even saw Wings, the first silent film that won. And I guess I've always been a movie fan, so it's interesting this year when what we got was, and let me just bring up a thing of the Drudge Report here. is a and you notice Trump rattles. You notice a Trump headline here. Trump big news now was also featured in that, given his opinion on the Oscars. He just says it's a tough issue because, really, what can he say? But this was on the Drudge Report a few days ago. The Oscar voter shares brutally honest ballot. Talking here about The Revenant. He didn't like The Revenant as a Roadrunner movie, but really The Revenant was a very well made movie, I thought, and it does have a real rawness, a real realism that it was probably, part of it was really actually like that back in the days, those hard days. But and most likely DiCaprio is gonna win the Best Picture. It's the odds-on favorite, and Leonardo DiCaprio is probably gonna win the Best Actor as well for it. And then but what the movie really shows, though, is the colonization, is the fur trade, and basically the original settlers. And the one thing, and I guess it is inspired by a true story. It's not based, because I looked it up. It's not based on a true story, but it's inspired by one because the characters, at least the Leonardo DiCaprio character, didn't have the First Nations wife and son in real life, and that part was made up. And that's one thing I noticed when I was watching it. I was like, this guy seems a bit too good to be true, because most likely, if it was a true story, then he would have been, part of the. Well, I don't want to give away some of the plot, but most likely he'd been on the other side, closer to the American or whatever the Tom Hardy character is supposed to play. Anyway, Steve Jobs is another. Basically, he's considered an Illuminati frontman, a genius in the tech sector, Apple. So it's the Steve Jobs movie, but just the past few weeks with Apple and the FBI controversy, and that I could write get a whole other post on that, do a whole other something on the Recon blog, because there's there's a whole lot of theories I'm not going to get into what Apple's up to now, but the origins of Apple. It's basically it's all from that Garden of Eden that we were talking about previously. Is that the apple represents the forbidden fruit and the tree of knowledge that the demon or serpent gets Adam and Eve to start eating. And then we go on to Brooklyn. I have not seen it. Sentimental drivel on the Drudge Report, but I think that's the one that's filmed actually in Montreal. So I guess it's Hollywood North, if you consider the whole country of Canada Hollywood North. Because there's a lot of things that seem a bit staged, a bit off here in Canada if you haven't been around here before. So once you see this, or basically it's controlled by an American media in Hollywood, but this is a Canadian-Irish co-production, because I guess it's about Irish immigrants and they land in Brooklyn, but they actually film it in Montreal. The other one was Room, was actually filmed here in Toronto, but it mostly takes place in, supposed to be a room in Ohio or something. And that one actually might have had the best performance of the year, is by a 9-year-old child. So you could say that actors of color are being discriminated against, but what about children? Because there's no nomination for a 9-year-old kid that does the good performance in Room, if you haven't seen that one. But basically that movie's not much entertainment. It's more of a scary story about these kind of the Illuminati outcasts, because there is not, they show Room, basically there's no conspiracy in Room, but there is crime in Room. It's all blamed on one crazy guy. But when you actually do the work or do the research and see how these operators work, then that more often than not, they operate as these kind of elite academies, do a shoulder tap process, And that's where when I noticed that, okay, the director's branch, 89% male, 84% white. These are not. There's hardly any women of color, basically none. 62% of people do not care about the Oscars at all. So really, why am I reporting this? Well, we're all just building up to the research I did on the Arnold Milchan, who's most likely going to win the Academy Award again. I think he also produced 12 Years a Slave. Usually the producer, they get a producer as well to accept the award, but I don't know if Arnold Milchan is going to accept it or if he's going to get the director, who I think was also one of the producers, was Alejandro Iñárritu, who I think also won the last year because he did The Birdman, which is another movie I haven't seen, is Michael Keaton. The one I did see, though, was Spotlight, which gets into the crimes of the church, and that is a huge conspiracy because we get into the Vatican and why the crimes were covered up for so long. And there is an element to it, and I did hear on Game On a few weeks ago when Ron Stevens mentioned he went through a article on Spotlight, and then he exposed something that I hadn't totally thought about, which was that basically that they're promoting the newspaper industry, which, if you've done the research, you already know is a propaganda tool. But since I'd seen the movie, and he even mentioned that he hadn't watched the movie, didn't really plan on it because he knew, all these, basically scams are going on, that when I watched the movie, you can actually see where sort of the villains are the media themselves, and they realize it in the end that they haven't done their job totally in exposing all these conspiracies because they'd rather just watch a Boston Red Sox game or whatever. That's the sad part. And Mark Ruffalo, who was one of the guys featured in that clip that we just played a few minutes ago, was nominated for supporting actor, and he plays one of the investigative reporters. That he did mention that he felt that he needed to attend. He feels torn because he's an activist and he wants to support the boycott or whatever, and he did recommend that the people should check out Black Lives Matter actually do something hitting the streets. And I think he had been involved with Occupy, and he had showed up in Canada supporting the environmental defense whatever kind of extremist. So I don't totally know what he's about, but he mentioned that he feels torn because part of him wants to go to accept the award because he's accepting on behalf of all the victims that are represented in the movie Spotlight, that are just trying to get their story across, and these reporters aren't having any of it until a few of them for the Boston Globe pick it up in there. Actually, the editor of the paper, the guy who takes over the paper, played by Liev Schreiber, who's actually from Toronto. He's one of the great Toronto actors. So there is a lot of connections to Toronto and Hollywood, a lot of Canadians in Hollywood. And, it's just, it's a controversy every year. And basically, really, when I saw the Drudge Report, then it showed me that there was this one of the links on there was a Jamie Foxx article, and so I clicked on the link, and let me see if I can find it here. It's right here. Is it Jamie Foxx says stars like Black Smith need to act better. Stars like Will Smith need to act better to win Oscars, and that he made a few jokes about it. I guess Will Smith in the movie Concussion does a accent that he doesn't. I guess maybe it's more of the stereotype African accent that maybe he doesn't fully, I guess, do it right, or that there's enough that they're making fun of him. At least at some American Black Film Festival award show. Although I could not find the clip of this, and I did look for it, Jamie Foxx making this joke, so maybe somehow he was able to do it without cameras on, and that maybe nobody caught it on cell phone, which I find hard to believe, but maybe someone caught it on cell phone, they just haven't uploaded it, but I haven't seen it. You'd think at least like TMZ would have it, or Jamie Foxx, according to Page 6, added, "Me and Denzel were like, hashtag what's the big deal? Hashtag act better." This is all, they're speaking in hashtag. This is a social media storm here that's caused by, this is out of the Guardian here that I'm just showing you here. And this is where you got to think of it from the, I guess, the point of view of the winners. And this is a guy like Jamie Foxx or a guy like Denzel Washington are probably proud winners of the Academy Award, long-time members as well of the Academy, and they maybe, and this is as well another theory, so don't quote me on this, but they may be really more upset that the Oscars has become basically a Klan rally, and that, you know, if they're members, then what does that make them? Because this is it's something that would affect anyone that is a member. If you're being accused, if you're accusing the Academy of these kind of things, then it affects everyone that is a member. What does that make Spike Lee then, who did admit that he accepted the honorary Oscar, the same award that D.W. Griffin had been given? And this is the same Spike Lee who had the movie shelved, the movie Birth of a Nation, or the movie on Nat Turner shelved. Basically, he got it away from Norman Jewison, who was going to make this movie about Nat Turner, and he just never made it. And it's really an aside in the book. He doesn't give all the details or how it all happened, but it's just paints a notorious picture when you see that Spike Lee had also had controversy because he did commercials for the Air Force, I guess, in the past. He's a commercial man for Nike and stuff. And, well, you know, the work that these guys do in their off time, I guess, when they're not making movies, you know, that's just what they do. And when they are making, or at least when Spike Lee's making movies, a lot of times he deals with racial issues, or I think his latest one, Chirac, has to do with the gun crimes in Chicago, or you know, hopefully these guys have the best of intentions, and hopefully this is all getting through to broadcast here on Reasoning Conspiracy Live. And I had played that Oscar So White highlight reel, and previously to that I had played the clip Sidney White mentioning to do some research on Arnon Milchan. And when we started off the episode today, we did talk about Leonardo DiCaprio thanking multiple times Arnon Milchan every time he won the award, with the same line, actually, if you notice that too, is "to the bitter end." And that's why we call this Oscar so gold, until the bitter end, because the Academy is basically operating as an elite secret society that is, well, it's controlled by various forces. And who are those forces? What do they really want? Well, let's just see that question that we had originally asked, who is Arnon Milchan, and do a bit of research. They said to Google him, and I found a few videos on YouTube. This is what you can find if you try to do some research on this topic here. Ask this question, and this is what you might...
Arnon, do you want to come up here, please?
Hollywood producer Arnon Milchan. In particular, Arnon Milchan, you stood by this film to the bitter end. I cannot thank you enough, especially Arnon Milchan. You stuck with us to the bitter end. Arnon Milchan, there's no one in this industry who would stick with a film like this to its bitter end. You are the champion of this film.
Producer Arnon Milchan has revealed his past as a spy and arms dealer for Israel.
wait. I have to present you with this, okay? You know, Arnon, most people are honored with a statue like this, and this is an example of what most people get. But you know, we've chosen a far more appropriate prize for you tonight, right? No, and it's this cigar. And Arnon, on behalf of all you've done for the cigar industry in America, this is really your award for tonight.
Milchan, who was behind box office hits like Fight Club, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Pretty Woman, confessed to Israeli documentary program Uvda that he spied for the country in support of its nuclear program.
You know what? I did it for my country, and I'm proud of it.
The Israel-born producer told the program he was recruited to the country's Bureau of Scientific Relations, which worked to obtain scientific and technical information for secret defense programs in the 1960s. According to Israeli publication Haaretz, Milchan even recruited other Hollywood A-listers, like late director Sidney Pollack, to help get that information. But he reportedly decided to get out of the arms dealer business in the 80s to concentrate on making movies.
I'm older than Israel, actually. So Israel is a very young place. Imagine a home that you built on the land that you owned before, and then you get your neighbors, they don't like you, so they throw stones, and you throw stones back, and then some houses get destroyed, and all of a sudden the stones are rockets, and the rockets are missiles, and
the Israeli-born businessman behind hits like 12 Years a Slave,
I have a business proposition for you.
Pretty Woman,
Come on, hit it before I lose my nerve.
and Fight Club, says he spent years as an Israeli secret agent and arms dealer. In a stunning interview that aired Monday on an Israeli investigative program, Milchan detailed how he was recruited in the 1960s to Israel's Bureau of Scientific Relations, where he helped gather technology to further Israel's still unacknowledged nuclear program, saying, quote, "I did it for my country, and I'm proud of it." Milchan moved to Hollywood in the 1970s, but he suggested his efforts on behalf of the Israeli government didn't end completely. Milchan indicated other big Hollywood players were also involved, saying, quote, "When I came to Hollywood, I detached myself completely from my physical activities to dedicate myself to what I really wanted, filmmaking, but sometimes it gets mixed up." The 68-year-old Milchan owns New Regency Films and has produced more than 120 movies, working closely with directors such as Martin Scorsese and Oliver Stone. He forged an especially close relationship with actor Robert De Niro, who was also featured in the Israeli television program.
I did ask him once, we spoke about something, and he told me that he was an Israeli and that he of course would do these things for his country.
So you want to come to Hollywood and act like a big shot without actually doing anything? Yeah.
In a story that seems reminiscent to last year's Oscar-winning true-to-life film Argo, that depicted the CIA-Hollywood collaboration to rescue U.S. diplomats stuck in Iran, it's a safe bet Hollywood execs will be fighting to bring this story to the big screen too. This is a wow story.
This is, and it's too bad he's unavailable. When he is available, he should come on this information.
Whether that costs a few $1,000s, a few million, I would have gone for it.
Arnon Milchan, number 249 on the Forbes list of the world's billionaires, is known for creating movies like JFK, LA Confidential, and even Pretty Woman. But beyond the big screen, Milchan is an avid art collector. He's been collecting since age 21 while living in Israel and working in the pharmaceutical industry.
At the time, there was no television, no radio, nothing. Politics and art and communication and media was all in art.
Milchan's passion for art began with books, fascinated by stories about artists who would give their life for the canvas.
Whether somebody cut his ear like Van Gogh or somebody who just paint to get a meal. I got to spend some time with Arafat, and well, anyway, he was telling me all the time about Pretty Woman. He actually has a cassette of Pretty Woman he's traveling with. Seriously, I'm not. By the way, I'm not here to glorify a gang leader, but the story is so. And then he was showing me his new Prada boots, and somehow I told him I'm 11th generation Israeli. And he turned and he said, you know, you're more Palestinian than me. So I said, Mr. Chairman, maybe we can talk, like, forget everything, let's talk forward. And he whispered, he said, pointing at his bodyguard, he said, they're gonna kill me. At that moment, Shimon Peres walks in and he said, yeah, sir. He said, don't worry, we're gonna protect you. So he says to Peres, he says, they'll kill me if I let you protect me. And I go, wait a minute, they'll kill you if you talk to me? They'll kill you for that. So, and all of a sudden something dawned on me that we are all hostages of, I don't want to say old in age, old thinking, old, we're prisoners of teachers and brainwashers and preachers of how things should be done. And I turned and I thought, and I turned to Shimon, who's actually the youngest older man I've ever met. I admire him, love him. And I said to him, you know, if young kids are qualified to die for their country, they're qualified to live for their country. And we got to talk about the word trust, and trust, children trust. We are too cynical, you know, to trust. And we have to learn from the power we give to the younger generation how to trust each other so we can learn how to actually execute what they tell us rather than the other way around. This is my Cinderella. And I say one thing. We looked at each other. She was 16. Her dad said she's going to be da 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 da. And I said, what? How do you know she's 100 in the world? And she goes, hold on. Do you have any doubt I'm going to be? Okay. Now,
when I was outside, her mom tells me, you know what, Serena, I'm going to call you into the stage. So I'm sitting down hoping, please don't call me, please don't call me, please don't call me. You know, this guy, he's a role model. He's my role model, and he can be anyone's role model.
Is Milton's collection, which is worth upwards of $600 million, with paintings from artists like Gauguin and Pissarro to Picasso, Francis Bacon, and Basquiat.
I can vividly remember a few years ago walking back home for the end of the day. It was 8 o'clock in the evening, going home for dinner, and my cell phone went, and it was Arnon, who was in his house in France, and he just finished reading the biography of Nero, and he needed somebody to talk to about the artist and what a crazy wacko the guy was. And, you know, that's a sign of a very passionate collector, someone who at 2 in the morning is still reading about one of the artists that is in his collection.
For Milton, art isn't about the money. Milton collects purely for pleasure, and he only buys what he likes. Milton ran into some trouble with some of his prized possessions. His plumber stole several pieces, which were later found in a cellar, unsalvageable.
Unfortunately, a family of cats made a home on the paintings and on the thing. And the only one that was not touched was an Israeli painting that is worthless, that they didn't, the cats didn't like.
You're laughing about it now.
I'm laughing for the
I bet you weren't laughing then.
I was not. I mean, I was looking at this. I said, I don't care about the money, but you know.
You made a family of cats very happy.
I made a family of cats very happy.
So that's Arnon Milchan. And who are these secret agents that are in Hollywood? I guess this is one of the world's richest men. 249th on the Forbes list, and that was years ago, so I don't know where he's at now, but he's one of the top billionaires. And this guy is the guy who's taken over Hollywood, was at one time possibly Israel's largest arms dealer. And it does get me thinking about one of the other nominees, for the Oscars was the Bridge of Spies, and the Bridge of Spies is talking about a spy swap. I guess at the end, near the height of the Cold War, I guess was a spy plane that went down past in the East Germany, and they kept them hostage. I guess the communist government, when it was the Red Scare, is one of the most interesting times in Hollywood when you actually do the research on it, and you find out that Ronald Reagan was never known as, you know, one of the most famous actors or top best actors of the day, but he was recognized as one of the guys who could have possibly been supplying the names on the Hollywood, I guess the communists that had infiltrated Hollywood, because there seems to be a lot of ulterior agendas or ulterior motives when you look at the way that secret agents operate. So all we can do is hope for the best, because this guy has definitely been endorsed by Leonardo DiCaprio and a bunch of people. So just remain suspicious and keep on doing your research on what's really going on in Hollywood. But when I wrote in that article, and you'll notice when you get to the end of the Academy Awards Klan Rally article, you'll see this part that maybe Spike Lee is doing the best thing going to the Knicks game instead of the awards, because there's lily white actors in the past that have actually done a real total boycott, which actually involves, you know, winning and not accepting, not being there for that. You don't just get upset because people want the nomination. What you do is you win, and then you voice your protest. And this is what happened when George C. Scott won. And I do have I think it's on the Academy Awards YouTube page here. Here's the clip.
Oh my God. The winner is George C. Scott.
He wins for patent. And another guy accepts. Frank McCarthy accepts on his behalf. So I guess if you didn't show up and you were still nominated and won, then somebody from your movie would show up, because you know, these guys are entering to get nominated, or they're at least sending their screeners out, because that's one thing the Academy does, is screen the movies they're supposed to be nominated.
I think the Academy has distinguished itself. I think it has done itself a great deal of good and shown what a good organization it is by recognizing and honoring so generously a fine performance by a great actor.
So they generously won there, or awarded the award there to George C. Scott, who had told them that he wasn't going to be attending, that he didn't even want the nomination, and he's referred to, I think there's a few quotes in the article, he refers to it as a, what was it, a horse meat show or something in the home of the Whopper or something. The Academy Awards, interestingly enough, the other best actor to have won and not accepted was Marlon Brando, won for The Godfather, which you know, is considered one of the great movies of all time, and one of the great Academy Award winners of all time when they look at the, you know, the best of the best pictures of the gold, you know, the so gold of the Oscars, so gold. So what happened when Marlon Brando won? He did not attend as well. That's you know, does a real boycott here, sends a First Nations representative to accept on his behalf, and
from a director named Ingmar Bergman.
this we're going to see the nominations here too.
You're quite right. The film we've just seen has said it all. I think we should say that those nominated for the best performance by an actor are
Marlon Brando in The Godfather,
Michael Caine in Sleuth,
Laurence Olivier in Sleuth,
Peter O'Toole in The Ruling Class,
Paul Winfield in Sound, The winner is Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
A tremendous performance, Vito Corleone.
Accepting the award for Marlon Brando and The Godfather, Miss Justine Littlefeather.
Hello, my name is Sasheen Littlefeather. I'm Apache and I'm president of the National Native American Affirmative Image Committee. I'm representing Marlon Brando this evening, and he has asked me to tell you in a very long speech, which I cannot share with you presently because of time, but I will be glad to share with the press afterwards. He very regretfully cannot accept this very generous award. And the reasons for this being are the treatment of American Indians today by the film industry, excuse me.
And they started booing her too.
And on television in movie reruns, and also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee. I beg at this time that I have not intruded upon this evening, and that we will, in the future, our hearts and our understandings will meet with love and generosity. Thank you on behalf of Marlon Brando.
This is the activism. This is the activism that's gone on in the past when boycotts occurred at the Oscars and the actual winners did not show up. And it is important always as well when talking of issues of race to realize that all the races other than the First Nations that are here in North America and South America, the Americas, I guess, are continuing the colonization because, you know, that's what basically any immigrants that don't recognize that, you know, there is a whole race of people that were here before that should actually be included when considered for, you know, what the Academy is and some of the great actors really of all time were First Nations, but I don't know how many members of the Academy are. There is, you know, you can find some stats on some different sites that have tried to do, you know, graphs, chart the winners and nominees and break it down by race. But, you know, one of the largest racial segments in North America is Asian Americans, what I guess the formerly or the racial racist term would be used to be Oriental, and now they're called like South Asian, or, you know, basically Asian people have never won an acting award, but they represent a large portion of the population, and the percentage of winners was something around, you know, 13% could be considered people of color, but then, you know, they're considering, you know, like a guy, because I noticed one name that stuck out on there was Ben Kingsley, because I didn't know he was a person of color, because I guess he had actually changed his name, that he is, I think he's of Indian heritage, and I guess African, but or African heritage by way of India, I think, because I looked it up. He had been some Spice King, relative of a Spice King, and that so he changed it to Ben Kingsley, and so he's considered on one of the winners of color. But you know, you see him on a lot of movies, and he appears as a white guy, like in the recent movie where there's a French guy that walks across the World Trade Center. I think it's called The Line, and he plays the White Devil. And, you know, these are the lily white Oscars that we have going on tomorrow. Most likely, as I said, The Revenant probably win. Mad Max Features is actually an interesting nomination because it is like a total action movie. I've never seen. I don't know if I've ever really seen a movie that's just like nonstop action. Really not much in terms of like character building in terms of the story, but there is like a scary world that it creates when I guess after a nuclear war and when it's interesting when the big buzz in politics in Hollywood involves this environmental scam, the green scam, that a movie like Mad Max would be nominated because it's like a interesting nominee because Star Wars was not nominated, which is also like a nonstop action, but I guess I could. Well, I was surprised that Star Wars wasn't nominated because I thought it would be just because the first one was 1977, and they were trying to really play it as a homage. But when I did the research on that, I realized why because Star Wars made the most money. That's a multi-billion-dollar making movie, and that Disney is now stepped up the top of the Fourth Reich now of movie making Disney. And when I did the research was that they actually did not send out all the screeners until after the movie came out, which would only given a few weeks for the Academy to watch it and vote. So most movies would send out the screener, a few months before at least or something. But Disney, because they're afraid of the pirating and copyright, they didn't. So that's why I wasn't nominated. The other nominee of mention was The Big Short, and that one deals with the 2008 crisis, which was basically a major crisis. It's sort of, is basically anyone that lived through it will, never forget how wild it got in the economy and how much the banks were able to get away with anyone that's done the truth-seeking research on it. And this, I'm not even sure if this broadcast got out. I do see it says live with the red here, but if it did, then hopefully you saw it, Reading Conspiracy, and I mentioned some of my thoughts here on the controversies Oscars So White and the Lily White Oscars that are going to be taking place tomorrow. And Chris Rock, I think, will do a great job as the host because he's the kind of comedian that's not afraid to bring up a politically incorrect issue. Or I'm sure his stance will be nuanced, or he'll play it safe because probably one day he'll be Academy Award nominated actor if he goes on a serious route. That's something I'll differ with on Steve Harvey, one of the guys that spoke earlier in one of the clips we played. In that, if you watch the full interview he gives there, he says, Chris Rock will probably never win an Academy Award, but he actually probably could because he's played a few, maybe more serious roles, or was in New Jack City when he's the drug addict. It was pretty hardcore. The movie Room, which I mentioned before, that's one of the ones that's not a conspiracy movie because it is basically, it's a crime blamed on one guy, although it does show the psychological trauma and the emotional trauma. So, it's more of that kind of movie. There is a few shots of Toronto because I'm, the area, I know some of these areas that you can notice it right away when you're from there. But if you weren't, then you could think, oh, there's probably just a small town in Ohio. But they did drive by Apache Burger, which is in the west end of Toronto. And or there's even a scene where they're sitting and they're eating, I think. And it's just interesting that coincidental that Marlon Brando would bring out an Apache spokesperson. And when he did not accept the award, the Academy starts booing because she's pointing out that it was basically a racist the whole generation and genre of westerns doing an incorrect portrayal or an evil portrayal as the natives or the Indians as the villains, when history will show something much different. When you look into Octagon and the Swiss Nazi Templars and what has happened in the history of America, or the pioneers, the patriots. When you look into the origins of the Illuminati and the foundings in Bavaria, all the way to the French Revolution, the American Revolution, and whole bunch more you can expose, or you've been exposed now to the Oscars Klan Rally Special here on broadcast live on Reasoning Conspiracy. Again, I'm not sure if the broadcast is got out. Hopefully it has, and if it hasn't, then we'll see you next time, or maybe I'll just try it again. And otherwise, you'll find this archive for the end of time. This is as real as it gets. We're doing it on the cheap. You haven't we're just in the Google Hangouts portion of thing, and I'm not sure how good the sound or video quality is. It's a work in progress. Recon blog, 2016 Oscars. Oscar till the bitter end. That's how we should end it. Actually, is the because Arnold Milchan stood behind the Revenant till the bitter end. We're going to stand behind the Recon blog till the bitter end. I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to warn you that this broadcast might have caused a trigger warning. I should have done that at the beginning. I apologize, because we had basically dealt with controversial topics, and this is one right now. Is the Oscar So White special. Live long and prosper, and word out.